Well, welcome back everyone to another episode of Meet the Author. I have Kay Webster here with me, and we are so excited to talk about dark romance books today. I am so happy that you are here, but before we get going and talking about all of your books, I have to ask you a very basic question, and I like to always do a little icebreaker thing. So I have to know, are you more of a dog or cat person?
Definitely a dog. I've got a dog, and I love my sweet dog. She's my daughter, so
What kind of
and
dog do you have?
she's a mix between a greyhound and some kind of cur dog, but she's her own special little dog, and she thinks she's human. She thinks she's my child, so
That's the best types of dogs. I have an Australian Shepherd, and she's like, right now, she's probably like laying at the door because I have the door shut.
Aw.
And the second I open it, she's gonna be like, "Hello." That's awesome. Okay, well, for people who maybe are not familiar with who is Kay Webster, first and foremost, let's just start and give us an introduction. Who is Kay Webster? What do you write? Those kind of things. So people, if this may be the first time they're being introduced to you, they kind of have an idea.
Um, I am Kay Webster. I have written and published around 150 books. And they're not all dark. They're contemporary and historical and sci-fi and rom-com and mafia and male male and pretty much just every type of romance book. I just if I'm a mood reader, and I'm also a mood writer, so whatever I'm in the mood for is what I kind of write. But they all have the same like Kay Webster like vein through all of them, where it's like a lot of emotions and a lot of like dealing with moral dilemmas and things like that. And yeah, so I've been doing this for about almost 10 years, and um, I love it, and I'm gonna keep doing it for a million more years. So that's me.
That's awesome. I'm so excited. And talking about, your writing process again, you've been doing this, you said, for close to 10 years now. What is the best like place for you, headspace to write? Is it at home? Do you like to go places? I know a few people have said maybe like writing retreats. Sometimes people plan those things. Where do you work the best?
I Okay, so obviously I have an office, but this is where I just do work. But writing to me is fun, so I do it in my recliner in the living room, and I have my recliner on the same wall as the TV so that I don't watch TV. I just write, and basically my dog sits across from me, so I look at her while I write. But that's just my happy place. It's comfortable, and I can kind of just like zen out and just write and ignore everybody as I'm doing it. I If I go places, like a fun fact about me, like if I go to like if we were to meet up and say, oh, let's get some work done, I would not get any work done because I would just want to talk the whole time, or just like be with the person. And so like whenever I go to book signings and stuff, I'll bring my laptop and I'll think, oh, I'm just going to write in the hotel. I never write in the hotel. And so if I go to Starbucks, I'm just going to be drinking coffee. Like I literally don't do it because it's like, I don't know, writing for me is kind of really private and very like closed off. I'm in my own little world. And so it's hard to do that with an audience. And so if I'm going to be with people, I like really want to be with them and not just ignore them. So that's me.
Okay. And what do you feel like inspires you the most? Like what really gets you going? You're like, okay, I'm inspired by this and I have to sit down and I have to write right now.
I would say 100% music. Pretty much all of my books have started because of a song that gave me like some kind of vibe that made me, think, oh, this reminds me of like a really like, for instance, if the guy is singing and he's talking about being obsessed with the girl or whatever in the song, I think, oh, that would be a good character. And so basically the song starts it creates a character for me because I can hear him singing, and then I create a story around that song, that person. So
So you feel like for most of your characters, they're not, I know some people I've talked to, they say that a lot of the characters are heavily influenced on people in their life, or they take, bits and pieces of people in your life. Would you say you're probably not more like that because you're taking more influence of like songs and things like that?
right, yeah, all the people in my life, they like a lot of my husband is very alpha male, and he, you know, has a lot of the things that you read in the alpha males in the books, you know I pull some of that from him because he can be very over the top. But for the most part, they do, you know, like I never have like a picture of a celebrity or anything. Like they literally just come to my brain through a song. And we play music all the time at the house, and like my husband plays guitar and my daughter plays the drums. So it's like constant music playing in our house. So it's, you know, always, you know, coming up with new characters and songs and vibes and all that. So
That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about your most recent release that has been a part of I think, a little bit of a controversial maybe series. And some people, who may not know, you are also, you have lots of different types of romance books that you said, but you are also known as being a banned book queen
mhm.
because you have a few books that have been banned. Let's talk a minute about some of those books. And I have two of them right here. So The Wild has been very popular, but for different reasons. And it's one of your banned books, I believe. And then this is your newest, Daddy Read. Let's talk about these books for a second and just what that was like and the process of them like getting banned. And I have to know more about this.
Yeah, so basically about 7 years ago, I was on a taboo romance kick, and I was looking for, like, just something really different and just that would make me, like, cringe and just really, you know, just something different. Because everything I was reading just felt kind of formulaic and the same, and I could predict what was happening, and I was just kinda getting bored, and so I went on this quest to find these types of books, and what I found was there wasn't really a lot that had like depth and you know, like characters with all of these different layers. And I mean, it was basically just all about the nookie, and that's all they, you know, it was very like, hey, there's a pizza man at the door, you know, oh, I answered the door in my pajamas, and you know, like it was just, that's how all the books were. It was just very corny, and I was like, I can't stand this. And I ended up finding like one book that was what I was looking for. And I was like, we need more books like this. So I wrote The Wild from Sunday to Sunday in the same week because I was just so like, you know, and I love survival romance. Like I'm a big like zombie person. So like, even though they're not zombies, but they're like surviving and things like that. And so I love the story, and I let my friend read it, and she's like, this is so amazing. And we were like, yeah. And then I let my beta readers read it, and they're like, wow. And I was like, you know, I should have like thought that that was like a warning, but I was like, oh, wow, right? That's cool. And they were like, yeah, okay. And then I put it up for pre-order and I sent it out to all the bloggers. And then all of the sudden it started getting like all of this, like all these people were like, oh my gosh, this is a terrible book, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, and I was like, well, I liked it. But they were just talking about like the morals of the story. And um, so then it ended up getting banned before it was even released. So it was like locked in. I don't even know how to explain it on Amazon, but they so many people went in and reported the pre-order that it just got like stuck there. And then when it finally came out, they took it off the platform. And and so yeah, it caused a whole controversy, but for the most part a lot of people were like, you can't tell me what I can't read, I want to read, you know, whatever. And you know, so many people were coming up to me like through messages, like seriously, I was having like 200 messages a day. How do I get the book? How do I get the book? How do I get the book? And sure, I would have some people that would message me, you're the, you know, most vile human on the planet and all this, and I would be like, okay, whatever. But like 99.9% of the people were like super supportive, and like humongous like big authors that I've never even talked to reached out to tell me, you know, we're so proud of you, keep going, you got this. And so many people were privately messaging me, or they were supporting me with their like purses, you know, they were spending the money. And I tried to put it on a different couple of platforms, but like all the trolls went and followed around and got it banned everywhere. And so finally I ended up setting up my website to be able to sell it from my website. And it was very like, we had to do it really quick. And that basically shaped like my whole career and like how I do things. And so now if I write a book that I know is going to be banned, because you know, and the thing with Amazon is they don't really tell you, they just say for content. Actually they say it's either the title, the cover, or the content. They won't specifically tell you. And so I know obviously it's not the title or the cover, so it's the content, but like where? Like if they said this specific line is against our standards, then I could go in and change it. But they don't. They just, it's very generic. And so anyway, I ended up just, you know, struggling through all of that, but it was good because I got a whole lot of new readers, and like you know, thousands and thousands would like came to my page and started following me, and like it was just really nice, even though it was hard and stressful, but it was also kind of like paving the way for other people to realize, you know, we can write these books. We don't have to sell them through the big platforms. We can sell them on our own website. And that's also how Eden Books came about. They're a bookseller, and they are focused on romance, and they aren't like strict on content and stuff. And so they were very supportive of me, and like I still have a lot of people that find me through Eden Books. And so anyway, it's been quite a journey, but and then that was such a like a traumatic thing that I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this again. But I had so many people asking me like, will you write more in this world or books like this? And so the next book I did wasn't in that world, but it was a book like that called Hail. And that is like one of my really popular ones. And I just knew it wasn't going to go to Amazon. And so I just sent it out in my newsletter, and I said, listen, you got to buy it from my website. It's not Amazon safe. So that's what I, you know, now call things not Amazon safe. And they crashed my website trying to get it, you know. And I mean, I had so many orders for the paperback because people wanted it in their hand. They didn't want it to, you know, so many people were worried that it would get stolen from their Kindle, like Amazon was out to hunt them down and find all their bad books. And I was like, okay. So I mean, I started selling like a lot of paperbacks, and that's kind of, you know, what started this whole store behind me. So yeah.
That's awesome. That I mean, it's hard to know that, you know, you had to go through so many challenging things and things that you obviously were not expecting. You were not expecting the trolls. I mean, they're everywhere nowadays to come and, you know, focus in and follow you to all the different stores and everything too to keep that from happening. But it helped you to create your little store behind you and now your website and, you know, really helped build the people that love your books and, you know, all of your K Webster fans to follow you through everything.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like after all that, you know, now happening, the people expect that from you to write kind of on that level? Or do you think if you know you have other books obviously that are not to that level, that they're not banned books? Um, do you feel like people are still, you know, totally happy with that? Or do you think now that they're like you've you know published those books that they like expect everything to be that, you know, crazy?
You know, I don't think so. I think because I set my whole career up just writing whatever I wanted, and it was always everywhere. And I always told myself, you know, this book is alien romance. Maybe, you know, 200 of my thousands of readers will want to read this. Okay, that's just for them. Like I never write my books thinking this is for the masses. This is for mainstream or anything like that. I think about those particular people who reached out to me and said, I love this book, blah, blah, blah. And so I think that book is for them. And this book is for them. And this book is for them. And my readers know like that they can pick and choose. And so a lot of my readers love my male romance books, but they won't read any MF ones. And so that's the first question I'll get if I have a post. Is it male or male female? And I'm like, you know, I'll tell them whatever, and they'll say, oh, dang, next time I'll read the next one that you do, you know? And so that's just how it is. And so whenever I revisited the taboo world, like so many people had found me that way, they're really excited about it because, you know, I don't write that every single time. I don't try to outdo myself. I, you know, even with the Wild and Daddy Read, that's like a little novella to get them ready for my next release that's coming out in July. And, they were just so happy to revisit the world. So it wasn't like I'm trying to beat the Wild, like in the craziness or whatever. It's just like, here's the Wild, and here's a little story about Daddy Read because you know, you missed him. It's been 7 years since we had this book, and now we're getting ready for the Untamed, and you're getting to see the world again. And so, you know, they just kind of they get to see. And if I say it's not safe for Amazon, they know what to expect. And if I say, you know, this one's going on Amazon, then they know, okay, this is going to be a good, steamy romance, but it's not going to like cross all the bad boundaries or whatever.
How was it for you going back into, again, the WoW was 7 years ago, and it was kind of like the thing that changed everything for you. So going back into, your newest release now, the Untamed coming out this month, you said July. How is that been going back to that world and putting yourself, back to kind of how it changed for you so much 7 years ago?
It's been fun. It's been like, coming home, because when I wrote The Wild, I absolutely loved it. I loved everything about it. Like, I was so passionate about that book, and then I had to fight for that book and really protect it. And it was such an emotional time. So I'm very like emotionally invested in that book. And so seeing Daddy read again was just like, oh, and then writing The Untamed, it's like, oh, I miss these people. And so it's really been in the last couple months, like eye-opening. Like, this is kind of like the foundation of my whole everything, like, is this world. And so it's opened up some new possibilities to write more in this world, and and to start building up some of the more like almost like what is it when people gosh, the word, I just lost the word, but where people it's at the tip of my tongue, like all the people that like Harry Potter, or all the people, the fandom, that's what I was trying to say, fandom. So there's almost like a fandom for this little world, and so I'm building up that little fandom by making more like swag for it, and just getting more into it, I guess, instead of just another book release. It's like we're visiting the wild world again. So
That's exciting. And I know people are probably so excited to read that book. What day is that book going to be available for people if they've been like on their pins and needles waiting? Or again, if this is the first time they're seeing you, but they're like, hey, this sounds like something I want to read. What day can they get that book?
that's July 31st. It is available for pre-order for both the ebook and the paperback on my website. And then Eden Books also has the pre-order for the ebook on their website. And whether they have a Kindle, or if they read on, their Apple Books app or whatever, it will give you the correct file for wherever you read your ebooks. So I know a lot of people that have never ordered outside of Amazon think, oh my gosh, this is going to be so hard. I'm not tech savvy. I don't know what to do. And it's super simple. It basically, you just buy it like you would anything else out there on the internet, and then it sends you an email with the book link and the instructions on how to do it. So
That's awesome. And I'm sure there's so many people that are excited about that. And with your books, I have a stack of them here because you were sweet and gave me so many yesterday. But the fun thing about your books is that all of these covers are being designed by you. So I'm just going to keep talking and show people, but you have a lot of, this is the one that I flew through so fast. This was my introduction to you. So I guess we'll do two questions first. First off, how is it for you getting to create your covers of your books, and how fun for you is that, and kind of what is your process as you're going through your books and deciding these covers? We'll start with that first.
well, I design like 90% of my covers. So like if they go through a publisher, they design their own. So Stroke of Midnight, Dangerous Press designed, but all the other ones I've done. And if I do, certain projects, they do it. And that's hard because I like to be in control and I like to make my own covers. So, but it's kind of like one of the things that you got to give up. But I love it. Like, for me, that's part of the creative process. Like, it helps me envision like the end result. So a lot of people, write the book and then they want to do the cover, or some people they want to have their cover made and then they write the book. For me, I start writing the book, and probably like 10,000 words in, then I make the cover, because I have kind of a feel of the world and the characters and kind of what I am like looking for. And then I just start scouring stock photos. Like, most of mine are stock photos. The Tangle of Awful and the Teacher of Nothing, I actually bought model pictures for those, but the rest of my books are just stock photos. And I spent a lot of time just scouring, looking for really good, like, eye-catching pictures. And then I love to like give them a little artistic flair. Like on Whispers and the Roars, I thought, oh, this is cool if we did like part of her face was like kind of like looking weird, and just fun stuff like that. And it's just part of the fun. And if I'm writing and I'm kind of burnt out on writing, it gives me another little creative outlet that I can still stay in that world and not just squirrel off and go something, do something else. I'm still in that world and I'm making the cover. And then when I make the cover, I'm excited again. Let me go get back to writing the book. So that's kind of my process.
That's awesome. And you mentioned, hold on, I'm going to grab it. Whispers in the Roar. So I know a lot of people, again, this is one of your really popular books, and a lot of people really like this on audiobook. What is that process like for you, having books turn into audiobooks? And because I know it's not every single one of your books, obviously you said you have close to 150. What is that process like, and kind of picking which books that you're going to do and things like that for audiobooks?
Well, I've done it several different ways. I had some through my agent that she was able to get like Audible to pick up some of the titles. And whenever it goes that route, they choose, everything that goes with it, and like the narrators and all that stuff, and they produce it and they do all the heavy lifting. And so I have less say. I mean, they do like say, what narrators do you like? And I can give them like, but it's not guaranteed. And then I've also done it where I go through a platform called ACX, which is part of Amazon. And you basically, it's almost like self-publishing for audiobooks. And I can select the book that I want to do and basically choose the narrators myself. Like they can audition and I can listen to them. And that is cool, but it's almost too much work for me. Like I I like to be able to hand it off to somebody and trust the professionals to really kind of cull through like what would sound good and rather than me get like 100 auditions and have to listen to all these people that really aren't really right for the part. They just, they're auditioning, and it's a time suck. And so I that's why I don't have as many audiobooks that I do on my own, because it's just too much work. Whereas if my agent gets them and says, "Hey, do you want to turn this into an audiobook?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it. Run with it." And it kind of just does its thing and I don't have to worry too much. And so but yeah, I do like turning them into audiobook because I mean, that's not just for people like us that like when we're working out or in the car or whatever, just cleaning the house and listening, but it makes it available for people who maybe don't uh like have struggles with reading for whatever reason, like if it's a disability, or if they just like my sister, she has a hard time staying focused. Eyeball reading, that's what we call it, eyeball reading. But if she listens to it, she really gets into the story. And so I like that. I like making that available to people, but it's just one of those things that takes a while to get done, and they can be expensive too. So
Totally understand that. And I didn't even, realize all of that process and just the costs and things like that until I've started, talking to people. And it's a whole process that I don't think, again, readers and consumers realize, you're like, all right, I want the next one. Where's the next one? Why isn't this out? And it's like, okay, it's a time process and it's commitment. And again, it can be expensive. So the ones that are out there are definitely awesome that they were able to be made and to do all those things. And that's another way, again, for people to find you and listen to your audiobooks and stuff like that. For people maybe that, again, this is their introduction to you, what would you say is a good start to kind of your writing? And how would you, if you could recommend a book to someone, just to say, okay, hey, here's an introduction to me, this is something I think was pretty popular, do you have one that would be, or maybe not?
I would say the most popular mainstream book I have is Stroke of Midnight, and that one, it's very filthy. So people that like filthy books, they're gonna like it. But it's also got the K. Webster edge to it with the things that go down in that book. It's still safe for Amazon, but it sure does toe the line. And so you get to see like the daring side of K. Webster, but maybe in a more controlled environment. And so it's I feel like it's a good example of my writing, and then get your toes wet, and then you could move on to you know if you wanted to go and be brave and go over to the wild, that one's just like on the whole other end of the spectrum. But and then Whispers in the Roars is such a I have several books that are very just unique. They're You're not going to find too many books like these out there. They took a lot of research and a lot of, because like a lot of little threads that are connected that are just different. And Whispers and the Roars is one of those books you just have to go in blind and you just have to trust me. And so a lot of people for their first book, they don't have that trust in me. So it's like, don't go into it for your first book. But if you read Stroke of Midnight and you liked it, then go into Whispers and the Roars and just trust me. And then when you get partway through that book, then you're going to go, oh, wow. Okay. And so, like my mom read the book and then she got to the end and she reopened it and read it again with new eyes because she was like, oh my gosh, and so it's just one of those hidden gems that but if you don't trust me and you give up halfway through, you just think that I'm bananas and you don't understand what's going on. You like literally have to trust me through this book. So
I think that's awesome, and I think that's, like, a big thing in general for people to realize is I mean, people are so bad about sometimes, giving up on a book halfway through or, like, judging a book by its cover, and there's so many things that you don't realize, I mean, especially, like, thriller books and things like that, I mean, that's just, it's a different thing in itself, but a lot of times you don't even get to what's happening until the very end of the book, so how can you judge what's happening in a book if you don't know what's coming
right.
because you haven't seen it, to the very end, and seen the process that someone was thinking about to the very end. So I definitely this is probably going to be my next
Mhm.
jump into your world would probably be that one because I'm excited about that. I saw that there's an audiobook for it, so I
Yeah.
fly through audiobooks in like a day and a half. I
Yeah.
have a problem. So
Yeah. Well, I'm the same. So
that's awesome. Well, let's see. Okay, so we talked about your covers. I was just really excited about that and some of the banned book process. Do you have any other books? Because I know, again, you have one coming out July 31st. Do you have anything else in the works for this year that maybe you want to, if you're allowed to, tease ahead, things that are maybe coming up in the world of things that you're writing that maybe you could give a little sneak peek for?
yeah, I'm actually working on a book and it's so just different than anything I've done, and it's called Waves of Fury, and it's actually a male romance, but it's post-apocalyptic. So like the earth is kind of going haywire and these two guys are paired up. So basically the one guy, he's a CEO and he's unhappy with his life, and the other guy is a food delivery guy, like DoorDash or whatever. And he's running late because kind of things are happening, and he gets to the top floor to deliver this guy's food, and the guy's just reaming him because you were late, my food's cold, blah blah blah. Anyway, they end up getting trapped together as like the whole city's like flooding and all this stuff. And so the whole story is just like a survival romance, and they go from enemies to lovers and that kind of thing. So it's definitely different than what I've ever written, but it's gonna be fun. I'm gonna finish writing that one here in a couple months, and then you had the Teacher of Nothing and the Tangle of Awful, and those are actually in the same world. So those two guys are brothers, and the third book is called The Heart of Smoke, and it's another brother, and it's gonna be coming out probably towards the end of this year or early next year, and that one's also going to be male, and so yeah,
That's
that's it.
exciting.
Mhm.
More books to look forward to that you're going to be having. So I know people who are big fans are probably just like waiting, like, all right, let's get him here.
Yeah, and I had so many things that I wanted to get to that I literally had to like sit at my calendar and go, okay, this week you're writing on this week you're writing on this week you're writing on this, to like keep it all like smoothly going, because I have so many stories I want to get out and get to the people, but if I don't stay focused, they're never going to get done.
Well, that's awesome. I think it's again incredible how authors' brains work and that you just have so many things like in your head that you're thinking about and plotting and wanting to do. And I mean, it takes time to obviously write a book and do all those other things. So, one more fun question because I didn't ask it earlier and I have to just know because I know it's a term in the writing world. Do you consider yourself more of a plotter or a pantser when it comes to your writing?
um I'm definitely, I would say, a pantser for the most part. Sometimes about halfway through the book I have to sit there and loosely plot the rest, because otherwise I'm just out and I'm just having a good old time writing like all this stuff and there's really no direction. So but I'm not a hardcore um plotter, because if I do, I've done this with some books. If I plot the book out like very just detailed and everything, in my mind, I already wrote the book, and I'm bored and I'm done. So I have so many completely thoroughly plotted books, and I wrote like 2 chapters on, and then I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So if I ever wanted to come back to them, I could. They're already ready and just waiting for me to write the words. But part of the fun for me is exploring as I'm going and seeing what's going to happen. So I try to keep the plot very loose and give myself like a lot of wiggle room, because a lot of times I will kind of plan things out and then just go veer in another direction. And I want that freedom to do that, because a lot of times it ends up being better than my original plot or whatever. So
That's awesome. And since we're wrapping things up here, where can people find you the best on some of your socials and your website? Kind of give me the rundown of where people can best locate you in some of your books.
well, I am most active right now on Instagram, so author K Webster. And if you go to my website, authorkwebster.com, there's a place to sign up for my newsletter, and I give a lot of information in my newsletter and a lot of free books. Like even the Whispers and the Roars, like people that sign up for my newsletter, it cycles through, and that's one of the books that they get for free. And so it's a good place because I give a lot of information about what's going on and sneak peeks and things like that. And then freebies and just all kinds of fun stuff. And so I feel like there's so much social media, it's hard to keep up with all the places, but my newsletter is just basically like the hub where they can get all the information. So
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again for coming on today. I had so much fun talking with you, and I can't wait for the rest of the books that you're going to have published this year. And I know that I'm just going to continue to fall down the rabbit hole of all things your books, guys. I've already started and I can feel myself free falling. So I'm
yay.
excited to personally read more of those books that you have coming out this year. And again, just thank you so much for coming on here today. It was so much fun.
Thank you.
And you guys make sure that you are subscribed to me and you are paying attention to the rest of the Meet the Author interviews, because we have more fun and exciting ones coming out this month and in the future months. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.